Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Elevenses with the reps at Diesel Bookstore. We are happy to see you, everybody. Every week we get together here on Wednesday at around 11, and we meet with our wonderful, fabulous publishers representatives, and sometimes we have other uh, luminaries in the book business joining us as well. But our fabulous publishers reps are here every week to talk about new upcoming releases that they're super excited about and want to tell you about. And we love sharing those with you. And we love posting the links to all the books they talk about in our little chat area over there. And we just go down rabbit holes and we have like tremendous amounts of fun. And every week they bring it exponentially, and your to be read pile will expand. And it's very exciting. And I have three wonderful reps with us here today to talk about their new books. And it's just been a blockbuster spring, I think, for everybody. It's just amazing. Like, I cannot keep up. There's so many fantastic books out there and such a broad spectrum of stuff. I'm like, if you're an omnivorous kind of reader, it's really, there's just spoiled for choice. And so I'm going to introduce everybody in a minute and we're going to get rolling. But first, I do want to tell you about a few events that are happening at Diesel coming up. Tonight, we have Tommy Siegel at the store at 6:30 p.m., and he will be discussing and signing Extremely Accurate Birds, an anatomically precise field guide to common backyard birds of North America. And, you know, there's been a lot of bird attention lately, and this kind of backyard birding type of thing. This is a funny take on all of that. And that is going to be 6:30 p.m. tonight, Tommy Siegel. Then one of my favorites on Sunday, April 19th, this coming Sunday at 3 p.m., we've got Donna at the store. I love Donna and all of her cookbooks. And this time she's going to be discussing and signing Sunshine Lemons and Sea Salt, a celebration of modern coastal home cooking. And she will be in conversation with Ben Mims, and that is going to be Sunday at 3 p.m. Don't miss that one. Donna's wonderful. Her books are wonderful. And then sort of wrapping it up for the week on Tuesday, April 1st at 6:30 p.m. at the store, we've got Josie, Iselin, and Ellen Litwiller, and they'll be discussing and signing The Mysterious World of the Bull Kelp Forest. So that's Josie, Iselin, and Ellen Litwiller. That's Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. We have many more events coming up, very exciting ones, and you can check all of those out at dieselbookstore.com. We have events into the summer listed there, so you can make plans. But that's what's coming up this next week. All right, so let's meet the reps today again. And then we'll get rolling. So joining us today, we have Shannon Grant from Simon & Schuster. We have Julia Callahan from Hachette and Will Gawronski joining us from Columbia University Press Consortium. Everybody's got such fabulous books today. I am so excited. So let us leap right into it. Shannon, do you mind leading us off today?
I don't. Okay, first up, I'm going to talk about a gorgeous debut. I actually have a couple of my books today, which is so unusual. It's called Honey in the Wound. It's by Ji Young Han. It came out last week. I think everything, there's that cover. It is a gorgeous, suspenseful, moving, debut. It starts in like early 1900s in Korea, and it's really the story, like a multi-generational story of women who and it starts kind of when Japan starts to creep into Korea and take over towns, and the beginnings of the occupation. And it is each of these women generationally have some sort of gift. The first one, and it's all kind of based around trauma and giving them power back. But so the story is tinged with magical realism. The first sister is able to turn into a tiger, and this happens after something happens to her family, and she kind of watches over her family from afar. And then the next generation, the sister is able to, when she speaks, her voice is kind of laced with honey, and whoever she's talking to kind of spills all of their secrets. And she kind of uses that as a form of resistance. And then the woman who kind of the crux of the story is based around infuses everything that she makes with food with her feelings. And so after she is kind of taken away, all of her food is infused with immense grief, and she is also kind of used as a form of resistance in a tea house of spies. So it's historical. The writing's beautiful. It's kind of based. Ji Young says that she had read an article about there only being a certain amount of comfort women left from the war alive, and that was kind of what sparked her to write this story. So again, it's a gorgeous debut. Um, Difficult because there's a lot of grief and trauma, but beautifully told, an important story too.
I love the way this book is written, the rhythm of it. It's sort of like this hypnotic kind of quality to it. You really kind of sink into it. And there's some echoes there with, completely different, obviously, but like Water for Chocolate with that sort of
Yeah.
the, the food and the emotions and things. And I think about that kind of thing a lot. And I love it when writers kind of go there a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. You get this
So
kind of like folklore and magical realism
yeah.
that runs throughout that really kind of propels the story along, and I think kind of helps you deal with the immense kind of tragedy of all of the things that happen. But it's
Right, but
beautiful.
it
I'm
really
glad you.
creates that world, it just, like,
Yeah.
really yeah, really creates that world in full 3D. So, fantastic book. I'm sorry, when did that go on sale, or
I believe it went on sale last week. Yeah, 4/7. So last Tuesday. So just out into the world. Gorgeous debut.
excellent. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Um, alright, Will, what is your first book?
Hey everyone, happy to be here. So my first book is a real LA type of book. It's called Smog and Sunshine, the surprising story of how Los Angeles cleaned up its air. So this is just out from University of California Press. Very excited about this book, which has been, as you can imagine, a big hit at Diesel and other places going in. And it just came out a couple of weeks ago, I think the 7th as well. So the author of the book is Ann Carlson, who teaches environmental law at UCLA and is a Southern California native, which is great because she can sort of wrap her own personal story and her family story into the larger issue of the science and government actions and all of that, that largely alleviated the smog problems that Los Angeles has had. She also held a position with the Biden administration for a time, but she's back in LA teaching at UCLA. So it's a big sweeping history. It kind of begins in the 1940s when people first started to notice the issue of smog and were not really sure where it was coming from entirely, which seems weird to us now. But there were all these kind of questions about why was the air getting increasingly worse. And it took a while for people to realize that the main thing behind it was vehicle emissions, which just got worse and worse as the population grew. And LA is such a car-centric city, of course, that just made it so terrible. So in the book, she writes about in 1970, there were 236 smog alert days in the course of where it was so bad that there would be, and there were various, like there was different levels of smog alerts to the point where like they were telling you not to go outside kind of stuff unless you had to. The last smog alert day was 2003, and it was kind of a more minor one. So we haven't had one in 20 some years. There's still work to be done, of course. There's still air pollutants in LA, but it's much, much, much better than it used to be. And so this is the story of how that came to be. It's largely about the emissions of cars and the Clean Air Act of 1970 and how that facilitated government involvement and personal activism of people who lived in and around Los Angeles to kind of work to get the car manufacturers to really find ways to make the cars less polluting. So she writes about the danger of lead, for instance, in gasoline, and how it was. I don't think this is something I'd never heard, but it was so terrible, the lead that was coming out, because it would come out and physically land on the ground, and it would get into, people would touch it. It would, not just in the roads, it would get into, the air and on playgrounds and things like that, and how awful lead is, and how at one point, there was more lead going into people's bodies than there were, during the Flint, Michigan water crisis. It was really terrible. So, one of the points of the book, I would say, is that she really argues the government has a crucial role to play in this. And you can't count on private industry to clean up things no matter what. So, because there's always going to be a reason why private companies don't want to change things. It's, even if in the long term it would be good for them, because in the short term it's going to be bad for them. So it's really crucial that government and local people who are activists be involved in this. And there's a real call for this throughout the book. She was just on Air Talk with Larry Mantle on LAist on Monday. So there's if you are interested, you can find that interview. It's about 20 minutes long. And last week, I think it was, she did a full hour on KQED Forum up in the Bay Area. So if you want a real deep dive, that's great, because she talks a lot about current issues as well as this period too. So really great. Just out from University of California Press.
They do such great books, University of California Press, like always,
Yeah.
consistently. They're always, whenever you see that imprint, you're like, yeah, it's going to be good. I think the younger people have no idea. I find myself saying this a lot lately, but about what it was actually like to live in LA during that time. If you're over a certain age, you just, but that's getting farther and farther away. We moved around a lot when I was younger, but we spent a year, and I went to school in West Hollywood for a year in my elementary school years, and we had regularly had smog alerts. It was weird that you couldn't go outside and you couldn't have recess outside, and that you're actually your chest started at the end of the day and the air was orange. And then people just
Yeah.
really don't know what that, and Gabe, my husband, he said that was regular. He used to run around and everything used to be like at the end of the day, and that's pretty intense. So it's if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to kind of imagine how, when you just see this like orange blanket over LA. It's fascinating.
Well, in one of the interviews, she was talking about, for people who weren't here during that period, who are trying to get a sense of what it was like, because I wasn't here then. She said, it's sort of like when we have wildfires now, and you
Yeah,
know that
that's
you
true.
can't breathe
That's
that
right.
stuff, and you need to stay in the house, keep all the windows closed. It was like that.
That's exactly, that's true. Yeah.
Except
Well,
all the time.
that's a good way of bringing attention to it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Air and water, man. Really important.
Right. As it happens.
That's what happens.
Ooh.
Julia.
Okay. My first book it's like part horror, part historical fiction. It's a retelling of Frankenstein. It is called Odessa by Gabrielle Sher. And it comes out next week. It's already garnered starred reviews from Booklist and Publishers Weekly. But this book, I'm not a big horror reader. But I was like, okay, a retelling of Frankenstein. I have read that one. And I started reading it, and this book is so good that I had a really hard time tearing myself away to read other things that I needed to be reading for work. And so it starts off in the early part of the 1900s in a shtetl in Odessa, Ukraine. And the Cossacks raid the shtetl, as happened quite often back then. And the rabbi of the shtetl, his daughter, is killed. And so the Frankenstein that comes back, it is it plays with the golem mythology of Jewish folklore. It is a female Frankenstein that comes back. It is a Frankenstein born out of love and grief rather than out of want of power. And the ways that sort of changes and plays with the Frankenstein myth is really fascinating. And this book just takes you on a ride. I was like as taken with the historical fiction elements, of which I'm like sort of embarrassed to admit I knew very little about. And as I was taken with, the more horror elements, and it does turn sort of, gothic horror, as you might imagine. But this is just a phenomenal novel. It is, whether or not you're sort of well versed in the Frankenstein myth, or just kind of know it from the ether, this one will, it's like you don't have to know it, inside and out in order to really really enjoy this novel. So I think this is for like, it's a great sort of crossover too for the both the historical fiction reader and the horror reader. But also if you're into none of those things, which like those are not two genres that I would, if you were asking me what I like to read, I neither of those would be genres that I told you. And I absolutely loved it. So yeah, this is Odessa by Gabrielle Sher, and comes out next Tuesday. I think it's just a phenomenal book, and one to really take a stab at, because no pun intended, because it's a really good time. Yeah.
I've been seeing this book everywhere. It's getting such great pre-publication. I haven't read it, and I'm fascinated. Also, same as you, Julia, but I'll read anything that looks really interesting, and that even if it's not a genre I don't normally read.
Yeah.
And I love the idea here. There was a book a couple years ago, The Golem of Brooklyn by Adam Mansbach, and that sort of played with that kind of concept as well in a much more humorous way. He's the one who's written Go the F to Sleep, in case
Yes.
anybody. Yeah, and then he wrote this like crazy book, which I just, I stopped recommending because I just thought it was so great and clever. This is like from a different perspective, a woman's point of view, and totally different, but it just reminded me a little bit, taking that concept, and also the grief-based, at the bottom of everything. So I'm super excited about this one. It looks like it's going to have legs, I think.
Yeah. It's very good.
Thanks, Julia. Shannon, back to you.
That cover on that, Julia, it's so good. It really screams pick me up. Okay, I'm going to do In Trees by Robert Moore. Also, I believe went on sale last Tuesday. And I don't know if you guys remember a book that came out, I want to say it's over 10 years ago, but it was a huge bestseller called On Trails. That I see that still sells in stores today. It was really big. But Robert Moore is a journalist, and this is he has worked on this, I want to say, since then, for the last 10 years. It is, he says in the prologue that the idea was sparked by his husband actually suffered a stroke. And when he was looking at the images of his brain scan, was kind of struck by how that looked like the branches of a tree and how that affected us. And anyways, he also was sparked by climbing one of the trees that he climbed in his childhood in British Columbia. So this is like it set him on a path to go actually all over the world. And with people, he like climbed sequoias with David Attenborough while he was filming a documentary, and went to Papua to study trees so anyways, all beautifully done, deeply, I want to say, if you are interested in history, nature, science, philosophy, he kind of covers them all, but not in like it never feels like dry reading or hard to get through. It makes you really kind of want to quiet yourself and and to get out there and to do some of that. But anyways, I can just feel like it's the type of book that would appeal to so many different readers, no matter what kind of nonfiction reader you are. It feels deeply accessible in that way, a little bit spiritual. And I think it'd be a great gift. So if you're looking for something for Mother's Day, Father's Day for yourself, something that could be passed around the family, yeah, it's beautifully done and out in the world now. And hopefully I think he's going to be at the LA Times Festival next weekend. And it sounded like he's commuting to dropping by bookstores on his way back up, driving up the coast. That's cool.
I should have mentioned that this next weekend. Thank you, Shannon.
Yes. Book lovers rejoice, the LA Times Festival.
It's always really a little bit overwhelming because there's so much to look at and do, and those of us who don't leave the house that often, it's a lot. It's great fun though. So that's this weekend, and this is a fact. I was going to say there's been so many wonderful books with trees at the center the last few years, and worthy topic for sure. And lovely, and I think you're absolutely right about this being a wonderful gift. Plenty of opportunities to give it. It's a one for me, one for you kind of a situation.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. All right, well, back to you.
That is a beautiful cover too. Just to,
it really
comment.
is.
I really like that a lot. I love books on trees, and I have a lot of them. Some of them I've not read, because I tend to buy them and then I'm like, they just sit there. But I like having them. Like, there's just something really wonderful about that subject, and it's so inviting. Fascinating. So, different subject. My next book I'm very excited about, and I think Deborah's a fan of this one. I feel like I've talked about this on Elevenses before, just in passing, but it's out now.
It was a while ago, though. It was a while ago. So
yeah. So it's Black Star Rising and the Purple Rain, which is the subtitle is The Sonic Afterlives of David Bowie and Prince. This is coming from Duke University Press, and it just came out. Technically, the pub date is right around. Actually, was yesterday. So I think it shipped a little earlier than this, and we don't have like strict laydown dates from university presses. So it's been out. It's a fantastic collection of really great music and cultural studies people reflecting on the legacy of David Bowie and Prince, who, as it happens, both kind of passed away around the same time. And their careers, although I didn't really think of this, but they do kind of have these weird parallels in their careers, time frame wise. So it's an edited collection. The editor is Daphne Brooks, who's fantastic. Years ago, when I was selling Harvard, she had a book called Liner Notes for the Revolution. And it was this book on Black women's voices in music. It was women as performers and songwriters and background musicians and all that. So good. She's just a fantastic writer, and she's got some pieces in this, but she pulled it all together. She's kind of the mastermind of this. The people who are writing in this is kind of a who's who of music journalists. There's Ann Powers, Eric Lotz, Farah Jasmine Griffin, Greg Tate, Grail Marcus. Jack Halberstam has a really wonderful piece on gender in here. So the way that the book is organized is sort of thematically. So there's all these different areas to comment on. And then there's usually an essay generally on one of or the other of them within that subject. So there's a section on sort of the idea of utopias and spiritual life. There's a section on cities and belonging and outer space and, how we sort of find our place in the world kind of thing. There's a section on the spectacular and performance and, kind of over the top presentation and what that means. There's a section on gender and race and how they both kind of redefine these things. So for anybody who's interested in either one of them as musicians or as kind of people who changed the way that we look at everything, from like fashion to gender to, cultural significance, this is just a great book. And I think it's another one that'll make a terrific gift for somebody. It's a big fat paperback. Totally interesting, and I hope it'll do well.
So it was really hard for me to not talk over you, Will, and let you do your presentation. Because you know how much I love this book, and it is absolutely fabulous. And Julia, you're gonna love it. This is definitely a Julia book. It is great, and I, as you know, was gonna give it to my sister who teaches classes
That's
in
nice.
music, and it's like a huge Prince. I think she's going to teach a Prince class at some point. But anyway, but I just kept it because I wanted to read it first. We kind of fought over it. She was like, "Oh, it's great." Anyway, it's fabulous, and you don't really. And I love the way it's structured with the different voices, and it's almost like an oral history, except smarter, kind of. The Purple Rain is showing at the theater down the road here. I guess it's the anniversary, so they're showing it in theaters. And my son went, and my sister and my son went, and he was like, "Wow, it was a terrible movie." And like the performance, like as a piece of film, it's not great, but this music. And but I was telling him, I was like, you don't know what it was like at the time. There was like nothing like this. It was so new, and you don't know because you weren't born, and you've just grown up with it. And it was the same with Bowie, really, completely reshaping the way we see certain things, And so I can't say enough great things about Duke. I don't know. It's a really great book. It's fantastic. And accessible too, not, it's not overly scholarly or it's fantastic. So thanks, Will.
Thank you.
Julia?
Well, I cannot wait to read it. My goodness. I have a David Bowie tattoo and a Prince one planned. So I'm the ultimate reader of this book.
It's like genius to put the two of them together, right? Like it's just like such an obvious combination, but
well, and I do think like I've thought for years, and they died like the same year, right? They both died in like 2016.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and put a curse on the world. Those two deaths really spun us out, and but I think I was so affected by both of those deaths, and like thinking about how much they did have in common from how much they pushed the envelope and in different ways. But yeah, I think this is brilliant. I cannot wait to read it.
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, I am.
Thanks.
Very excited. Okay, so excited that I lost my next book. Okay. All right. So my next book is by Jordan Harper, who is, I would say, like a great sort of like successor to the Michael Connelly Southern California LA crime novel. His new book is coming out April 28th, so in a couple of weeks, but it is called A Violent Masterpiece. And it's also gotten a starred Publishers Weekly Review and is a Book Page Recommends book. And so this is a LA noir thriller. It does everything you want it to do, but it is sort of about, it takes you, like any good LA noir thriller, it takes you through both, the rich sort of Beverly Hills, Hancock Park, like areas of Los Angeles and into some of the grittier parts, downtown LA, Skid Row, parts of Los Angeles and out, down into the South Bay and out into the San Gabriel Valley. So it takes you all over LA as it sort of tells you this crime story. And he is a screenwriter as well as like all good LA crime novelist. He's a screenwriter as well as a novelist. And so it has that sort of propulsive, you just cannot stop reading this book. One of the booksellers at Vromans is a huge Jordan Harper fan. And, as soon as he saw this, was like, Julia, I need this. And I ran into him and he was just like, oh my God, I can't put it down. Like, it's so good. So, it's one of those things that if this is your first Jordan Harper, this is a great place to start. If you've been reading his other books, I believe this is the third one we've put out. This is going to be a great building block on those other titles, and his aren't interconnected, but just these like wonderful LA noir thrillers. And I always think, you know, I'm a fan of the LA noir genre because I think like the sunshine paired with the noir is like such a great juxtaposition. And so I just think you're going to have a great time with this book if that's something that you're into. And he is a master of it. Definitely. So
Yet the chiaroscuro, Julia, and this is like my
yep.
favorite word to use about LA, which I am absolutely completely partial to for the exact same reasons. I love it. I have this in my queue, and I'm
Yeah.
waiting for a moment where I can just read unencumbered
Yeah.
by things I have to do and just like blaze through it because I'm really excited about it. I love that cover, love the idea. I'm really super excited about it. The it's not like there's a shortage, but I feel like I haven't been noticing as many lately. Like other kinds of books have kind of taken over. It goes in waves, as you know.
Yeah.
What's being published, what's happening, what's on rises to the top, and that I haven't seen a lot of like great thrillers like this lately, I should say. So I'm really excited because that's my that's my sweet spot. That's where I go for comfort. It's my comfort food, and
And
music
I feel
books.
like
Do things.
this is one of those authors. I don't know if everyone else has this, but there's some like thriller crime writers that the indie book buyer like really like like I, I'm always curious to see who is requesting galleys from me,
Mhm.
right? And there are certain authors that I think they work better in, different channels than the indie channel. And then there are some where the indie buyers are like, and Michael Connolly is one of them, or
Mhm.
Harlan
Mhm.
Coben is one of them for me, where every buyer is like, I need this. And
Right.
Jordan Harper has quickly become one of those people where the indie buyers are on board and are like, and I need this one. Like I need to read it immediately. So I always think that's the mark of a truly great sort of crime novel.
I mean, I'm biased, but I agree with you, and you're correct. There's no better marker. You know,
Yeah, totally.
the indies are smart because they know, that they know their customers.
Yeah, they're
it's not an
discerning too.
algorithm. We know what people are reading. So
Yeah, well, and it's discerning, right? It's saying like there are great genre fiction and like we know which ones are great. And so
yes,
I think this definitely falls into that. Yeah.
exactly. I can't wait. Excited.
Yeah.
Thank you, Julia. All right, Shannon, why don't you start off our last round of the day?
Okay, I'm gonna close out with a picture book for little ones that's called Just One Oak, What a Single Tree Can Be. And it is so charming. It was one of my favorites of the spring season to sell. So I'm excited that it was out in the world. It also came out last week. Oh, look at it. It's so cute. Um, I am a sucker for a nonfiction picture book that teaches me something because I'm always shocked at how much I learn when I read them.
Yeah.
This is just this team, Maria Gianferrari and illustrator Diana Sadiqa. They wrote a book a couple years ago that was also one of my favorites called Fungi Grows. But this one, and where it's like they did a deep dive into fungi, and it was a fascinating and beautiful. But here they kind of take on the whole entire ecosystem of an oak tree and everything that it supports from a black bear down to a tiny mite and everything. So I love it also because it can be read on two levels. It's like as a picture book, it's got kind of like a springy poetic verse that just, a couple lines that is a story on one side of the page. And then on the other side of the page, it has a little kind of a few sentences that are like a more scientific deep dive about whatever theme they're talking about. So it is, I would say, perfect probably for ages like 3 to 7, maybe 4, 5, 6 is the sweet spot. and the illustrations are so detailed and I feel like cozy and warm. There's some things. So like every single thing, I don't know if you can see it all, but is labeled, all of the animals, all of the little seeds and leaves and everything. So you can really read it on so many different levels. And I feel like it's something that every time you open it up, you're going to find something new to kind of ponder over and look at. But they're a really great team. I mean, look at that. So I don't know. I found it fascinating and beautiful. And yeah, it's exciting that it's out into the world. I feel like it's one that you will read over and over again.
I absolutely love these illustrations. They're amazing. They're absolutely
I
beautiful.
know. Yeah, they're such a good team and the artwork is so beautiful. It's very charming. And if you haven't seen
It
that,
takes you there, you know?
yeah.
I have a whole shelf of kids' picture books that I have purchased as a grown adult
Yeah.
just from being in the bookstore and loving them so much and just wanting to have them there. And it's really true what you say about learning, picking up, things here and there. I've seen some absolutely incredible books that convey such, pretty intricate concepts for kids
Yes.
that make it understandable for us. You're like, that's how that works.
Yeah, yeah, like so digestible and yeah. And also I
Yeah,
should have mentioned that it has a couple pages of really great back matter in there on
right.
like just the ecosystem and like even how to, find acorns and plant an oak and grow the seed. So yeah, very, very interesting and fun and good to read aloud.
Gorgeous. Thank
And
you.
I
And
didn't
thank you
realize
for,
I was on a tree theme.
yeah, I was gonna say, but I figured, no, that's obvious. Uh, Thank you also for bringing a kids book because we don't do that a lot, and it's always great to have the children represented. Thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, for sure.
Will, what's your last book of the day?
Okay, so before I do that, I should just say I'm up in the mountains and I forgot stupidly to pack my power cord for my laptop. And as it turns out, this
Oh,
game
so are
will
you
take place now.
on the way out?
I might be. So if I'm suddenly gone, that's why. So my apologies in advance. Um,
Okay.
so my last book, I'm very excited about, is from Eris Press, which is distributed by Columbia University Press, and it's called "The Stories We Bring Back." Margaret Atwood on myth, morality, and the art of writing. So you may know Eris because they do these wonderful pamphlet books that are always a big hit. And this is not one of those. This is a full book that is a paperback, great design to it. It's Margaret Atwood in conversation with a Greek poet, Harris Vladinos. Sorry. If you're Greek and listening to this, I apologize. I can't get it right. But they did a sort of conversation in Athens on stage about the origins of storytelling and where it all comes from. So it allows them to talk about the stories that keep echoing throughout our experience in the Western world. So it's things like love and war and the loss of family, politics and what makes a good ruler or an unjust ruler, those kinds of things. So basically, like everything that you think of when you think of classical storytelling, but also things that we're still writing about today and why that's so important. So this is great, great Margaret Atwood at her best, kind of in conversation, very kind of off the cuff, but also talking about how these stories have influenced her own writing. It's really wonderful. It just came out, or actually, I think it's coming out right about now. It's a $20 paperback. And again, it's from Eris, so it's the same people who do the little booklets. It's not one of those. It's like a full-sized book. And I think it's a really sweet little thing that also will work as a nice gift.
Lovely gift, I think. Perfect gift. And I love these books that take these wonderful conversations that, if you weren't there, and you missed it, but there's often so much that comes out of the conversations at literary gatherings or, wherever it is. And it's such a great idea to package them. Toni Morrison's lectures, I love, wonderful to hear Margaret Atwood. That looks like a fabulous book. Thank you, Will. Julia, why don't you wrap us up for the day then?
Sure thing. And I also have a kid's book. So my kid's book is an utter delight. It is called The Art of How Dogs Sleep by Alison Kim. And it comes out next Tuesday. It is an Indie Next pick. And it is, as the title implies, all about the art of how dogs sleep. So it has dogs in varying positions, sleeping in all sorts of different ways. Talking about their sausage roll, their shrimp sleep. It tells you exactly how much squishy and how much hard a dog is when it sleeps. So it just goes through every single little delightful detail of dogs sleeping. So and it was one of those books that I have a we call it an F&G. It's like it's the book, but it's not bound or anything. It's just kind of like loose pages. And every time I handed it to a buyer when I was selling this, they like stopped and read the entire thing cover to cover and was like, and then we're like, this is delightful. Oh my God. And at first, like, they'd order a few and then they would like majorly up the the quantities after they read it, of how many they were bringing in, because it is such a it's beautifully drawn, but it's also just like an utter delight. And I think that like having children's books that are just an utter delight sometimes is so like refreshing. You know what I mean? I love a kid's book that teaches me something, but also I love a kid's book that's just whimsy. It's just like,
and
it's
just
really
like,
whimsy.
and
So,
you're
yeah.
just, oh, this is so cute on
Yeah,
every single.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. It's just a delight.
I feel like this really taps into that kind of meme that goes around where, is this a dog or a croissant? That kind of thing with the you're kind of,
That
you're
is
really
so
well.
stinking cute, Julia.
It's
I
so
mean,
cute.
so
I know.
that people
Yeah.
just stack that up and watch people go, ah, and take it.
I know.
Absolutely. I mean, that's just a sort of a no-brainer right there. And go ahead. Sorry, Julie.
I was just gonna say that one of the number one comments was, "Where's the cat one?" So I don't know
Right.
what the author has cooking up, but
Right.
that was a major feedback point. So I don't know.
No, but
Stay
it is,
tuned.
we often say like dogs, I mean, dogs are just so cute. We don't deserve dogs. They're just they're just so sweet and wonderful, and they just put up with so many indignities, and we impose on them. And this is just really taps into that,
Yeah.
So cute. Thank you, Julia. And thanks to everybody. We had Will for a second, but he's in this liminal space in the mountains over there. So he's in and out. But thank you so much for coming on Elevenses and talking about such fantastic books. Another really outstanding collection of books from all of you. Julia, you're going to love that Bowie and Prince book. It's so good.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna go buy it.
Yeah, they're all fabulous. So thank you so much to Shannon Grant from Simon & Schuster, Julia Callahan from Hachette, and Will in the ether from Will Gawronski from Columbia University Press Consortium. Thank you guys so much. We will be back again next with more books. We'll have more reps. We'll have more to talk about, and we will have more to add to the to be read pile. So I hope you will all come back and join us then. In the meantime, everybody have a wonderful week. Be careful out there. And happy reading. We'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.